All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. If you get your questions, go ahead and post them. Should be below the video if you're on a smaller screen. If you are on a larger screen, like a computer, should be to the right of the video. All right, so we will start here with Mike S. Mike S says, "Good morning, Q. Please suggest tips to correct chicken winging in the follow through." So let's talk about what exactly causes the chicken wing, and that is the stall of the body, right? So if the body kind of stops rotating through contact, the arms and the wrists, right, are going to be, they have to bring the club to the ball, otherwise there's no way to get the club to the ball. So basically what happens, my body will stop, my arms keep going, and then you can see, because my arms keep going and my body doesn't keep going, that's where that chicken wing look comes from. So from there, you have to look at, okay, well, why is the body stalling? And there can be lots of reasons why that is, right? So you have to kind of diagnose what the reason is for the stalling of the body. And a lot of times what it is, it's either going to be typically because you're starting down steep and then you stop your body rotation. So that way you don't continue to come down steep, right? So for example, if I'm starting down steep, right? Well, if I keep rotating, well, look what happens. I'm just going to keep coming down even more steeply, and I'm not going to be able to hit a functional golf shot. So what a lot of people will do is they'll start down steep and then they'll stop their body. So that way that club doesn't keep coming over the top. And a lot of times they'll also stand up out of their posture, right? And then the body stops rotating, and then you get that chicken wing look, right? So that could be a part of the reason why. Another reason why is a very open club face. So if we're coming down and this club face is open, one way that we can get the club face to square up is to stall the body and release the hands to square up the face, right? So if I'm coming in, face is wide open, I can stop my body, throw my hands, now I'm squared up. If my face is wide open and I keep rotating and I come into contact with shaffling, that face is just going to stay open. I'm not going to hit a functional golf shot. On the other side of that, right, if my face is more closed and then I stall my body and throw my hands, well, look, my club face is too closed, I'm going to hook everything. So if my face is more closed, I'm actually incentivized to keep my body rotating and, get those hands in front, because that's going to keep the face square, right? So what I would say is I would recommend working through the 20-minute shallowing fix, because it addresses both of those things, right? It addresses a steep downswing, and it addresses an open club face. So that would be an option to kind of work through that to get to the 20-minute shallowing fix. You can click the instruction tab at the top of the screen, and then from the drop down there, you'll see the 20-minute shallowing fix. You can select that. Another one, it's basically working through the 20-minute shallowing fix, but it's working through it with the training aid here, the blue brick. If you're not familiar with it, it's this guy right here. This is a training aid that Clay invented, and basically it's just a block that has holes in it in specific that hold alignment sticks at specific angles, and allow you to do all kinds of drills. So one of the main drills that we do with the blue brick is shallowing, and you can see that's clearly labeled here on the top here, and you have different clubs to do it with. You can do it with the driver, you can do it with an iron, 6-iron, which pretty much works for all irons, and then wedges, right? So I have a wedge here in my hand. So what I'll do is, and this would be a great way to kind of work through the chicken wing thing. It comes with these alignment sticks. All right, a couple alignment sticks. These alignment sticks are awesome because they collapse down. Not all alignment sticks do that, but the ones that come with the blue brick do this. And just makes it to where you don't have to put them in your bag. You like a club, you can put them in the side pocket or something like that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it in the wedge slot, and that holds the stick at the correct angle to force me to kind of shallow out the club, right? And just to show you for contrast, this is the one for the driver. Right, so you can see how the driver is a much flatter angle, and the reason is it's a lot longer of a club, right? So it holds it at that perfect angle, so that way we know where we need to be. So I'll put one there for the wedge, and then there is also a hole here that you would put the stick into, and you would point it at the target. I can't do that because I got the wall right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this along the side of the blue brick here. And then what you do, you'd have your ball about a club head inside of that. So about a club head inside of the stick there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start out with some shorter, slower swings. I'm going to focus on keeping my hands in the club underneath that, right? And turning my body through. So I can still chicken wing, right? If I kind of go like this, pull my hands up and stay underneath it. But what I want to focus on is turning my body back and through. Now, another good thing that you can do with this is pair it with this, but also use the Tour rotation stick. This isn't on our resources page, but if you do a Google search of the Tour rotation stick, I really like this thing. You can also take an alignment stick and put it down the shaft and use it as well. But I like this because it clamps to the end of it, right? So let me, again, you can do a Google search of that. I don't have any affiliation with Tour rotation stick. I do have affiliation with Blue Brick just because Clay invented it, but I don't get any kickback for if you buy that or anything. It's just a good training aid. So, but if you don't have that, also you don't have to have a Blue Brick. You can put the stick if you are working on real turf, you can put the stick in the ground at this angle. This angle is going to be roughly about 60 degrees. So, and it's the lie angle of the club basically is where the angle is set at. So what I would do is I take my alignment stick, put half of it down the shaft, half of it out the butt end. And now if I don't rotate my body and I flip my hands, the stick is going to whack me in the side. So I'm just going to stay here. I'm just going to start with some half swings where I go here, I stay underneath and I rotate through, right? And I make sure that this stick isn't whacking me in the side. And I maybe try to do it in a practice swing first, but try to do it in slow, little chippy kind of swings. Once you get to where that's easy, I'm going to tell you, you're probably going to find that difficult at first, especially if you're chicken winging right now, because that's what feels natural to you, right? This is going to feel very awkward and like you don't know how to do it, right? And because you don't right now, you have to train how to do it. So that's why I would say, maybe take away the golf ball at first, have this set up, and then just get to where you can kind of make half swings doing that, then add the ball and just hit little. The goal is not to crush the golf ball, hit perfect shots. The goal is to, keep this stick from hit the ball and keep this stick from whacking in the side and keeping this and keeping the arms in the club underneath that, right? And if you can do that and get really good at that, then I would go up to 3/4 swing. Again, the goal is not to crush the ball. Move as slow as you have to go to be able to do it, and as fast as you can go to be able to do it. That's basically the right speed. You want to be able to do this at least. If you're not able to be successful doing the drill more than 50% of the time, then you need to go a little bit slower or take away the golf ball or get to where you can be successful, more than 50% of the time. And then once you get to where you're successful, like 80% of the time, and that's why I like to do 10 rep increments, because then I know, okay, I've gotten 2 out of 5 so far. All right, now I've got 3 out of 6. Now I've got 4 out of 7. Now I've got 4 out of 8, right? You're able to kind of keep track. And then once you get to where, if you're in that 5 to 7 reps range out of 10, keep going, keep putting reps in until you get good enough at it to where it's 8 out of 10. Once you get to where it's 8 out of 10, then I would progress it a little bit. So progressing it means, if you're doing it without a golf ball, maybe try to add the golf ball now. If you're doing it in a half swing, maybe try to go to a 3/4 swing now, right? And add small increments, right? A big mistake that I see a lot of people make is when they're working on things, they go from doing it very regressed, like little chips, no swing, and then they take away everything and they go full speed and they're like, I can't do it. It's like, you can do it. You just went from, crawling to running, right? You got to crawl, then you got to learn how to get up, then you got to learn how to take some steps, then you got to learn how to walk, then you learn how to run. There's steps to it, right? Baby steps, if you will, no pun intended, right? So that's the way you kind of have to work through these things, right? So that's another way I kind of recommend working on it as well with the blue brick. That would be like probably the best way to work on it, would be with the blue brick, because it's specific. Like like, let's say you were my online student, right? You signed up for the online lessons. That's basically what I would have you do right there. I would have you send me the first, after I've seen your swing and see, oh yeah, we're chicken winging. If we want to get rid of that, that's what we would do right out of the gate. Is we would get you shallowing out the club, get you rotating, right? We would make sure that club face is in a good position, right? And we would start with half swings, maybe even no golf ball, or maybe add the golf ball if we can do it with the golf ball. Get to where we can do it there, and then we would gradually build it up from there. All right. All right, let's keep it going. And if you want to pick up a blue brick, you can pick up a blue brick on the resources page. So at the top of the screen there should be a tab that you see that says resources. If you select that, that will bring you to our page with all the things that we recommend, right? So training aids, launch monitors, books, all sorts of stuff. So if you're looking for some more resources to help you to get better, that's the page you want to go to. You can find the link to purchase the blue brick there. We have been having a hard time keeping them in stock because people are buying them. So hopefully we got some in stock. But if not, just there's probably a waiting list there. There should be. If there isn't, anyway, there should be. So if there is a waiting list, join that. So that way, whenever we have more in stock, we'll kick you an email, and then you can purchase one at that time. All right, so Jeff B says, can you discuss in general chip shots around the green, mainly ball position and stance with tight lie and thicker rough? Thanks. Yeah, so in the setup here, what I like to do, one is have the feet close together. I see a lot of people chipping like this, right? Have the feet close together. The reason why we want to have the feet close together, no one explains this for some reason. But the reason why we want to have the feet close together is it helps us to hit the ground in the right spot more consistently. You see, when our feet are farther apart, it promotes more of a weight shift, right? When my feet are closer together, it does not promote that. It helps me to stay more centered, or helps me to stay kind of in one place. So that way I can control where I'm hitting the ground. I don't need a weight shift for a chip shot. A weight shift is what's necessary for power, right? If I want to create power, I want to shift my weight into the ground and shift my weight forward, right? That's going to help me to get power. If I'm throwing a ball, right, if I'm trying to throw a ball with as much power as possible, I'm not going to go like this. I'm going to get some momentum. I'm going to shift my weight, right? That's why we want to do that for full swings. But for chips, we do not want to do that. We're not looking for power. We're looking for accuracy, right? If I was to toss a ball, if I was let's say I was just trying to toss a ball in that cup, right? I would get my weight keep my weight kind of central, and then I would just kind of toss it with my arm. I wouldn't take a big step forward, you know what I mean? It wouldn't be as accurate, right? So that's why I want to have my feet relatively close together, a club head or so apart, and then I'm going to have my weight forward and my body forward, right? So generally, for full swing shots, we want to be behind the ball, right? For chip shots, we actually want to be ahead of the ball, right? That makes it easier for us to get our hands ahead, which makes it easier to get the leading edge under the ball. That's a big reason why a lot of people struggle with chipping, is they don't get the leading edge under the ball, right? We want to have shaft lean to get the leading edge under the ball. If we don't have shaft lean, then it's going to make it difficult to get that leading edge under the ball, because the bounce is going to raise that leading edge off of the ground, which is going to make it more difficult to get it underneath the ball, right? So feet close together, weight forward. I like to also have my hands forward. It just makes it easier for me to have my hands forward at impact, right? Ball position is going to depend on the trajectory of the shot that you're looking for, right? If I'm looking for a low trajectory kind of shot, then I'm going to put it more off of the inside of my foot, right? This is going to be like a low trajectory kind of shot, right? And I'm just coming back and through, and I'm not gonna release it, right? Or I'm not gonna release it much, right? When I say release it, I mean that, right? So that's the release. right? I'm keeping that club head behind my hands as I'm coming through, right? So the motion might be like this, right? That would give you a kind of nice and low kind of shot. If I'm looking for medium trajectory, I'm going to put it roughly about in the middle of my stance here. Again, weight forward, hands forward, and I'm going to release it just a little bit just in front of my hand. So the motion is going to be more like this, right? That would be kind of a medium trajectory chip. If I want to hit a higher trajectory chip, not like a flop shot, but just a little bit more in the air, then I'll put the ball a little bit forward to the middle. I don't want to put it way up here, because if I put it way up there, then again, I'm not going to be able to, still want shaft lean, I just want a little bit less, right? So I'll put it a little bit forward of the middle, and I'll actually open the face a little bit. Again, weight forward, face open, and then when I come through, I'm going to go ahead and let that release past my hands a little bit. All right, so the motion would look like this. All right, I'm still weight forward. I'm still hitting the ground roughly in the same spot. That's going to allow me to get a little bit more lock on. It's going to help me to hit it higher, right? So that would be like low, medium, and kind of like a higher trajectory kind of chip shots. I like to set up a little bit open. I like to set up a little bit open with my stance. The reason is it helps me to keep the body moving through contact. This is a personal preference of mine, but it helps me to keep the body moving through contact, which makes it easier to keep the hands in front. Imagine I'm hitting the ball that way and I set up like this, right? It's going to be very difficult to keep the body moving. And if my body doesn't move, then I'm going to tend to throw the club with my wrist too much, right? And that's going to tend to lead to chunks and thins with these shots. If I have a tight lie, I'm actually going to stand a little bit closer to it, and I'm going to play it a little bit off the toe, and I'm going to be a little bit more toe down, heel up, right? The reason is that it makes it easier to get this leading edge underneath the ball, and it's harder to get that leading edge underneath the ball when you have a really tight lie, right? So that leading edge with the toe down, it makes it easier to get that underneath, right? So if I have a really tight lie, I'm going to stand a little bit closer to it. I'm going to choke up on the club, and I'm going to play it a little bit off the toe, and that makes it easier to get that underneath of there. You don't really need to do that if you have like a thick lie rough. Well, if I have a thick lie where if the ball is buried, then I'm putting that back in my stance, right? And the motion is going to be a little bit different. So the motion for a normal chip shot out of the fairway, whether it's a tight lie or it's, maybe it's sitting up, or maybe it's even the rough, but it's not like really thick rough. It's, the ball's just sitting up on it nicely, right? If I have access to the back of the ball cleanly, this is what the motion is going to be. It's going to be a lot of chest rotation, right? So really what I'm thinking about is really kind of turning my body and rotating my body. And my arms are just kind of along for the ride, nice and soft, right? Not a lot of hinge, right? It's just there'll be a little bit of hinge from the momentum, right? What I mean by that is when I bring the club back, right, it has momentum going that way, and then there's a change of direction, which will create a little bit of the hinge. That's what creates the hinge. I'm not creating the hinge with my wrists. I'm creating the hinge by keeping my hands soft, my wrists nice and loose. And then that gives you a lot of feel in the handle. You want this club head to feel nice and heavy, so that way you have a really good feel for it. And I'm just turning back and through, and you'll have really nice soft hands and soft touch when you do that. Now, when you're in thick rough, you can't really hit it that way. So if you don't have access to the back of the ball, you need to hit more down on it. You kind of need to drop the club on it. As opposed to coming in more level with it, right? Now I'm still hitting down on it when I'm doing this, right? But in thick rough, I'm going to be hitting down on it even more, right? So I'll put it more back in my stance, and this one will be more hinge in dropping it down because I'm trying to drop it in right behind the ball to pop it up out of there, right? So that would be the chipping technique out of thick rough. Again, I'm not standing really close to it to get the toe down. I'm standing normal distance away. I'm just dropping this down on it, right? Another big mistake that I see with chipping is where out of the fairway, where it might maybe a tight lie, where people kind of bring this club up like this and they drop it down, they hit down on it too much, and then that's going to tend to make it dig, right? Or it's not that they're hitting down on it too much, because they're still hitting down on it in the other way. It's more that they're bringing this kind of straight up and then dropping it down, and then that's going to make the club really kind of want to dig into the ground. And you better be really, really precise with where you're hitting the ground. Otherwise, you're going to chunk and flub a lot of these shots, right? So what I like to feel is more of an inside kind of a feel. Now, if I'm trying to hit like a cut kind of spinner, that would be one thing. So that would be, I'd be kind of opening up the face a little bit, and then I'm bringing this kind of across it and cutting across it and trying to hit like a cut spinner, but that's like a different kind of shot, right? So what I would recommend doing if you want to learn how to hit it out of really tight lies is you practice it. Figure out, how close you got to stand, how much you got to be toe down, where it needs to be in your stance, and all that stuff. You gotta learn by doing a little bit. I can sit here and tell you how to do it, but that doesn't mean that you can take this information and you're just going to be a great chipper, right? Information is just part of it, right? You have to actually go practice it and do it. So go to your local chipping area and try to find some really like bare areas. Try to find maybe some divots, hit out of divots. If you do that, it's going to make you a much better chipper. If you can hit nice chips out of really bare lies, or even like muddy lies, or hot pan out of divots and stuff like that, where it's just dirt, you can hit chips out of anything. And that's a great way to kind of practice and to kind of figure out, how can I hit a solid chip even out of a lie like this. So that way you're never really going to run into a lie that you don't know how to hit out of, right? It makes it to where it's a lot easier to transfer what you're doing out onto the course. All right, so Bill L says, when I am speed training, I sometimes hit under and sky the ball. When I do this, the monitor read 10 to 15 miles per hour faster. Is there a reason for this? It's just a misread. It's just misreading it. That's all. I mean, if you're popping it up, you're not really hitting it on the club face. You're hitting it on the crown of the club. So it's just misreading it because you're not hitting the ball in the correct spot. That's all it is. All right, keep the questions coming here. So Bill says, I am shanking my chip shots. Try to hit the ball off the toe. Change your intention to hitting the ball off the toe. That'd be the first thing that I would do. The next thing I would do is I would look at how your hips are moving when you're chipping. So if you're chipping and you're kind of crowding the ball and moving your hips toward the ball, you're taking away space for your hands to work through, and that can lead to shanks. If you are chipping where you're bringing it down and really cutting across it with an open face, right? So if you cut across the ball with an open face, this is what's coming at the ball, right? Well, look what's in the way there. This part of the club face, basically this entire part of the club face here is covered up. If you're really cutting across the ball with an open face, you only have like this much of the club face to hit onto. Otherwise, it's going to be a shank, right? So make sure, I would look on video and make sure you're not coming down with a really open face and cutting across it, because that's going to tend to lead to those shanks as well. So those would be a few things I'd look for. Number one, change your intention hitting off the toe. Number two, look at your hips and see if they're moving toward the golf ball throughout your chips. You might be crowding the ball too much, right? So if you're kind of like this with your hands in your lap, if you move toward the ball at all, you're going to be in trouble, right? So you want to give, whether you're, even if I'm standing really close to it to hit, kind of a toe down chip, I still have space right here, right? I'm not like this and then trying to keep my hands really close. I'm raising the handle to get the toe down, right? And then again, if I'm going more flush to the ground, again, I'm still don't have my hands in my lap, right? So if you got your hands in your lap here, and you're standing really close to it, and you move your hips or your legs closer to the ball, that's going to tend to lead to shanks for sure, right? So I make sure that that's not what's going on, and then make sure you're not cutting across it. I'll try to feel like you're attacking the ball from the inside with a more closed face. All right, we got a half hour or so. If we got any more questions, keep them coming. All right, we got a question here from Tom S. One more wet weather shot tip, please. Bunkers. I have watched Clay's wet bunker video a couple of times, and it still doesn't help. Sometimes hearing the same message a different way can help. So, how should I hit a bunker that is hard as a parking lot? So, basically, a lot of what we do in a normal bunker shot is to prevent the club from digging, right? So, we open up the club face. Why do we open up the club face? Well, there's really two reasons for it. So one, opening up the club face gives you a little bit more loft, which helps you to lift the ball up out. But the main thing that it does is it engages more of the bounce, right? And it allows you to hit the sand with the bounce. And that essentially acts as kind of like a rudder going in to the sand, right? So imagine if I'm water skiing. If I'm water skiing, I want to have the nose of the skis up out of the sand, or up out of the water, excuse me, so that way I can glide on top of the water. The moment I get those skis to dig down, to point down, what's going to happen to the skis? The skis are going to dive into the water, right? So what we're doing in a normal bunker shot is we're opening up the face, so that way the wedge doesn't want to dig down into the sand. It'll glide through the sand, and you'll be able to lift the club up out of there, right? So what we want to do out of hard bunkers is we want to, restrict that a little bit. We want to have a little bit of digging, right? You may actually want a lot of digging if it's as hard as a rock, right? So basically, normal bunker shot, we open it up, we use the bounce, we hit several inches behind the golf ball, right? In a hard bunker, and again, not all hard bunkers are created equal. Sometimes the bunker is just a little bit wet, and we play it a little bit differently. These are things you have to practice you have to learn by doing a little bit to understand, okay, when it's this hard, I'm going to do it this amount. When it's this hard, I'm going to do it this amount, so on and so forth. So if I had one that was as hard, like rock hard, it's like concrete almost, then what I would do is I would only open up the face a little bit, right? So instead of opening up the face, like that's how much I would open up the face for like a normal kind of bunker shot. But I would probably open up the face about half as much, right? In a harder one, right? And again, generally my ball position is going to be more forward out of a fluffy kind of bunker because I want to hit the sand more back here and let the club glide through. But for a hard sand bunker, if it was hard as concrete, I would want to be hitting the sand just behind the ball. So I wouldn't have the ball so far forward in my stance. And this is a big key. This is the main thing. This is what took me from being a okay bunker player to actually pretty solid bunker player. Hit that sand hard, right? Whether you are playing out of fluffy sand or hard sand, hit the sand hard. I would say even more so out of hard sand, because you need to get the club underneath the ball. The only way you're going to get the club underneath the ball is to hit that sand hard. That's what's going to allow it to get underneath the ball a little bit. And what allows it not to dig is the bounce, right? So I'm going to hit a little bit closer to it. I'm going to get my weight forward, keep it forward, and I'm just going to drop this club right down, right behind the ball, and it will come out, right? So the only difference is between a harder sand bunker and a fluffy sand is I'm engaging less of the bounce for a harder sand, and I've got to hit a little bit closer to the ball. And because I'm hitting a little bit closer to the ball, I'm not going to be hitting with as much speed, but I'm still hitting down into that sand. I really want to feel like I'm thumping the sand really hard just behind the ball. Practice that, and you will be better at it. You got to practice it. The reason why you might stink at it is because you haven't put enough reps in, right? It takes reps to be good at bunkers. So I'll tell you a little story about myself. I grew up in a tiny town. Some people say they grew up in a tiny town. I actually grew up in a tiny town, 3,000 people, right? So we were fortunate enough to have a 9-hole golf course. But as you can imagine, a 9-hole golf course in a town of 3,000 people isn't going to be like Augusta National, right? It's going to be, kind of a public kind of fun, hopefully kind of course that's playable, right? We had one bunker on the course. Well, there's more now, but we had one bunker on the course, and it wasn't really even a place where you would ever hit it. So I really had no idea how to hit out of bunkers for the most part. I had watched tour players, so I just tried to kind of copy what they did, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And I was a very poor bunker player for a long time because I never practiced it. Why would I ever practice something that I'm never ever going to run into on the course? But then, of course, I get into high school golf, and again, I'm avoiding bunkers like the plague, trying to stay out of bunkers as much as I possibly can because I know I'm bad out of them. It wasn't until I got to college that I actually kind of learned how to get out of bunkers decently, right? Because I played a lot more higher end courses that had bunkers, and it wasn't until I was out of college that I actually learned how to get out of bunkers really well. And that's when I learned, okay, yeah, we got to hit down into that sand a ton. I want to thump the sand as hard as I possibly can. Once I started doing that, then I started having much more control. I went from, I was getting it out every time just fine, but I wasn't really, I didn't have like a legitimately makeable putt. I had a makeable putt, but not one that I had a good chance of making. So I always had like a 15-20 footer or something like that. But now, ever since I learned, okay, we want to hit down into the sand, and I practice that. Now, usually I'm inside 10 feet, right? And that's a more makeable putt, sometimes a lot closer, right? And that's all I can. My Sandy's percentage has gotten a lot better, since then. I don't track that, but I know that I've gotten a lot more up and down since doing that. So that's really what it comes down to. But you got to practice it. It's not something that you're gonna watch a video and know. Not saying that's what you did, Tom, but it's not something that we can't just watch a video and then expect to be able to go out and execute it perfectly. We watch a video to get the information, and then you have to go practice it. And you kind of have to figure it out as you're practicing it. So that's what I would recommend doing. All right, we've got about 20 minutes left here. No problem, Tom. Glad to help. So Al Y says, "What app do you recommend to put lines on video swings?" OnForm. OnForm is what we use for the online lessons. I believe they give you a 14-day free trial, and then after that, it's $5 a month. But I mean, if you're serious about working on your golf game, I definitely think the $5 is worth it. If you sign up for the online lessons, we actually cover that. So if you're interested in using the app for free, I would sign up for the online lessons, and then you get online lessons with it as well. And if you're interested in online lessons, there should be a link above the video stream here where you can click that and sign up if you are interested. And if there's any questions about the online lessons, I'll be happy to answer any. All right, we got about 15 minutes left here. If we got any more questions. All right, if you're just jumping on the office hours, we're just waiting for questions to be asked. We got about 10 minutes left here. No big deal if you don't have any questions, but just thought I'd throw it out there. All right, we got about 5 minutes left. If we have any more questions, no big deal if not. All right, we'll go ahead and wrap it up right there. Thanks, someone, for joining me. We'll be back here tomorrow, Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Everybody have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time.